Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I've got the other two fellas muted here real quick. I do want to go ahead and share who won the Dog Pound Sportsman of the Week, and it is Aubrey Bennell, and it wasn't even close. I think she ended up getting 29% of everybody's voting. That ended directly before the show here. Derek is a little bit under the weather tonight. I've got Isaac Newton on. He's also going to be talking about a really important thing that I think is important because it's kind of the up and comer award, and then we've got the Ben Fry. So stay tuned. And we're getting ready to rock and roll. I've got a lot of really analytical questions, Ben. I know probably should have sent you every one of those questions, but it kind of is what it is, right?
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Okay, Isaac, you've got the basically the floor, and then I'm gonna kind of pull you out, and Ben and I'll have at it.
All right, sounds good. I don't think we've kind of decided on the name yet. I know you kind of brought it up as the underclassman award to me. Just kind of someone that's not typically like varsity for like winter sports and just kind of does what they can to help or kind of just um
Isaac, I'm gonna go ahead and jump in and say what it truly is. It's the Isaac Newton Award. Come on, man.
and in my mind it's, I mean, whoever helps um for the better for that sports team or for the school in any case they can. This week it's probably gonna have to be. I try not be biased here because I get to work with a lot of them in
Come
multiple
on, man.
sports.
You can be biased.
I'm gonna have to give it to Liam Pryor this week. Um, I just see him constantly working behind the scenes to either better himself or teammates within wrestling. Every once in a while, he comes up and asks if I need help moving water or something like that. And so I feel like this one definitely goes to him this week.
Well, I think Liam is going to be very appreciative. So we'll look here eventually when we get more donors and as money starts rolling in, Isaac, and we'll give them some type of a gift certificate as well. So, buddy, this is all yours, and Isaac's going to join us before every coach show, ladies and gentlemen, and then we'll kind of keep him in the background, and then obviously, if Isaac's got a question, he can stick it in the chat. But hey, Isaac, thanks for coming on tonight, brother.
Yeah,
And to
thanks
be
for having
honest,
me.
oh man, any day of the week because I'll tell you, I shared kind of a wrestling event that took place 3 years ago. It was Coach Smith's last home meet, and just listening to Isaac's what do you call it? He's really grown up, Ben, because back then it was like, oh, I'm not gonna but no, no. In all seriousness, Isaac, we couldn't do what we do without your help, brother, and we really appreciate you. I don't know whether he's listening. Sometimes he's pretty quiet, man. So
I
uh,
don't know
Yep.
what to say. I mean, I appreciate working with you guys because I get treated so well.
well, you know what? Birds of a feather flock together, brother. And I'm going to put you in the background right now, but we do have a private chat if you want to chime in. Okay, buddy.
Sounds good.
All right, man. All right, so I got the Ben Fry. Ben, thanks for coming in. I do want to share kind of our first moment on the same staff together because
Yeah.
I'm sitting there we're pre-gaming for Keokuk, the varsity game, and and I'm walking down there and I'm like, is that him?
It
You
was.
know, yeah, and I was like, Derek Doherty and I talk about it because it's kind of like that Chuck moment when Chuck left and came over, and it's kind of very similar, but it was one of those things where you know how every bone in your body you're like, hell yeah, we got this guy on our sideline right now, man.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm not sure that I'm, you know, worth all of that, kind of giddiness behind you. But I can't tell you how excited I am about being around Fort Madison football again. So
Oh God, yeah. And it's been a couple of years. Eventually we're going to talk about kind of your state run, but first off, I want to ask you, a quick icebreaker question. You ready for it?
sure,
Okay. So, if animals could talk, which would be the rudest and why?
animals could talk, which would be the rudest and why? I mean, you gotta. I think it's a cat. Cats
Okay.
just they don't give a crap. Like, hey, put food out for me. I'm not gonna sit there and take any of your crap. And if I come over and don't get a pet, I'm gonna leave. Like they just kind of do their own thing. I'm not sure that they necessarily mean to be rude, but I think that just their personality wise, they're not like a dog that's just like, hey, I'm looking for love. The cat's just like, I'm here, deal with it.
I'm here to tell you that if I was to pet that dog behind me right now, that sucker would bite me. So, but no, in all seriousness, do you have cats? Do you have dogs? I know you have kids.
Yep, I have a dog. He's puppy still, 6 months old. And then I grew up with a lot of animals around the house. So I think we had somewhere between 5 and 7 cats and 2 dogs in my house when I was growing up. And ever since I left, and when my wife and I got married, we've just had one dog at a time. And this is our second dog. Our first dog we unfortunately lost about a year and a half, well, almost 2 years ago now. So yeah, that was kind of a heartbreaker because he had been with us through the entire marriage to that point. And so, when that happened, it was obvious. It was right at the beginning of football season, and all that kind of stuff. And then we went through that year, moved down here, and kind of decided maybe it was time to have another dog running around. And I'll tell you, there's nothing quite like that first dog. This dog's okay. He's got a lot of learning to do still. So
So I'm sure he's chewing everything up right now,
oh yeah,
right?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
chewing everything.
Hiking his
Yeah,
leg because he doesn't want to go outside. Is that?
yep, hundred
Yeah.
percent.
And it's always our freaking fault, like my wife, like, "Oh, they're so cute," but as soon as they do something like that, they're like, "This dog.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
when did we decide to get this damn dog?"
that's 100% what it is.
No, in all seriousness, man. So you're ADing over at HDC.
Yep, along with their
You
IT director. Yep.
okay? IT director.
Yeah, I'm also their IT director. So I
Um,
got quite a bit of work over there.
so Dog Pound Radio is looking for an IT guy as well. No, well, we'll talk about that later. Anyway, I don't want to screw around too much here at the beginning because Isaac will freaking punch me in the face or something. But hey, let's talk about your history, man. Grew up in New London.
Grew up in New London. Graduated there in '09. Went off to Central College. Was there to run track. Ended up just getting hurt. Um, a lot of people don't realize, especially me coming from New London, Iowa. Like I was an above average athlete there. Went to Central College, and it was just a different beast. And like they own you. And as much as D3, you think it's hey, it's anybody can play that. Like that's not necessarily true. Like those guys are still elite athletes, doing things. And I just happen to be at Central, who's a historically, fantastic school when it comes to athletics and that kind of stuff. And the grind just wore me down so fast, and I didn't have any of my friends up there, and it was a whole different animal. And so after my first year there, I ended up stopped. I did not run track anymore. And I kind of dove into some of the other passions I had at that time, which I was also in their a cappella choir. So I got more involved in that. And then I changed my major like 7 times, ended up graduating with a theater degree for my undergrad because I needed something that was going to basically get me through college. Otherwise, I was going to just call it quits. So graduated a theater degree, left there, moved down to St. Louis after I got married. Worked in a meat department, worked for a small theater down there, just kind of did whatever I needed to make ends meet. Ended up moving back to Iowa, and was working at the convention center in Fairfield as their development director and events manager and assistant events manager, and got to work with a lot of really cool people. but I got my coaching authorization as soon as I moved back and started coaching right away. And that was, immediately what kind of sparked another passion for me, and ended up going back for my master's degree and got that in athletics and activities administration. And so I've been an AD, I think since right around 2017. I took a little break after my time at Fort Madison to go up and just be a football coach for a while, but that's where I fell into the IT role. And now I'm just back doing it all again. So yeah, it's kind of been a nice whirlwind circle, but like I said, I'm so thrilled to be back.
Hey, I gotta ask you, what part, because obviously you did some plays, some theatrics.
Yeah.
What major part did you do? Here's a fun fact for all of our guys listening. I know Owen Huffman's listening. He's that guy up there, and we'll talk about that picture later. But what's interesting is I had the lead in The Sound of Music, and
Okay.
I was the lion in The Wizard of Oz.
That part I can see. Yeah, that fits you pretty well.
What are you making fun of my coage?
No.
Oh, okay, all right, no. What
Um,
what did you
I
do?
had I had a few. Probably the biggest one in high school. Obviously, we did Grease, and I was Danny Zuko, whatever. But then when I got to college,
That's badass, man.
yeah, man, I did that, and then in college, I did some smaller little parts here and there. But my junior year, I got cast as Sky Masterson in Guys and Dolls and was the male lead for that musical. And then I, did some other lead roles in just some plays and that kind of stuff as well. But what I really enjoyed about theater was the technical side. So along with the acting, I was helping with building sets and designing lights and sound and all that kind of stuff. And I actually won a couple awards for sound design while I was in college. And that was really cool for a couple really well done student directed shows. So that was a lot of fun. I got to help. We started a children's theater class when I was there, so we got to put on like a children's theater clinic. So I got to work with kids and do that. We did a whole arts festival all over campus, and I was kind of the tech coordinator, tech director for that. And so we would use all the random spaces we had in the college and do stand-up comedy in one, and do like drum circles and improv plays and all these cool little things. And we had to figure out how to make them work in that space. And then after I got done, probably the coolest thing I did in theater was after I got done and started working at the Fairfield Arts Convention Center, I actually started a kids theater camp. And the first year we had like 17, 18 kids, and we put on a full production in 2 weeks. And after I left, they kept it going. And I believe it was purchased by some company that does this. And so they still were doing it last I knew. And I think they had 50 plus kids involved in it every single year. So just getting it started that 1 year kind of sparked something. And now it like I went back and watched, and it was fantastic. And there were so many kids, and it was really well done. So that's probably the coolest theater thing I've been a part of.
It's always crazy because we get to know each other as the guys that have all this freaking testosterone going, and
Yeah.
we're
Yep.
all freaking amped up, and we got our ADHD effing brains going nuts. 100 mile an hour, got our hands in every pot, right?
Yep.
And then when you find out, you know what I mean, that hey man, we did this extra stuff.
Yeah.
This is kind of one of those moments, Ben, where like, oh my God, Ben, I saw you at Hy-Vee on Thursday.
Yeah. Everybody's got this, hidden side. I mean, a lot of people call it softer side. I guess that would be considered what mine would be, the arts background. I mean, my mom was my high school choir teacher. She's the one that signed me up for a choir audition in college, and I went just because she signed me up, not expecting anything, and auditioned and made the choir. And I remember after my audition, they were like, "You just want to be in a cappella choir. You don't want to do the elite choir." I was like, "Well, I also run track, so I don't think I can commit to all that at once." And after that first year, when I went back and said, "Hey, I'm not doing track next year," it was like, "You're in the elite choir now. You're doing double the practices. You're doing double the gigs, all this kind of stuff." But it was just really cool. My time at Central was special. As much as I struggled academically, it was one of those things like it kind of made me figure out who I am. And every experience I had there has shaped what I currently believe in wholeheartedly as an activities director, as a coach, all that kind of stuff, along with my coaches and teachers in high school. Like it just got reinforced at Central. And so while I was there, it just helped me to kind of gain a broader understanding of every person and how everybody's different and how that's okay. And if you have different beliefs and how, if you have different specialities, whatever it is, you can still come together and find a common goal. And that's what I love so much about the game of football. Like not everybody's an all-star, but you show up every day and you put in work and you're going to find a way to find that common goal. And that's what I love about coaching offense specifically, because you get to build it from the bottom up.
And you like the flex bone, right?
I am not a flex bone guy. I am a spread, air it out guy as much as I can be. But what I really love is obviously like, you know, the base air raid stuff, but how they've incorporated the RPO. So now my core philosophy of air raid stuff has this run game built into it that I can get as creative as I want to with. And that's what I really love about it.
So let's dive into football here real quick. You know, because you know obviously football is what's it's shaped everything that I am today, along with wrestling. You know, I have to throw that out there too. And I'll ask you this question before we talk about how short Coach Churi's shorts were during wrestling season. You know, so why football, man? You know, what was that golden ticket moment where you were like, man, this is who I am. This is my identity.
Yeah, I think it just kind of shifted at one point. I thought growing up, you know, and I knew in high school I wanted to be a coach. And I had, like, you know, you brought up Coach Cheery. Like Coach Cheery was my coach in several things. He coached me in baseball, coached me in football. You know, he was my junior high track coach, all this kind of stuff. So I had a really awesome relationship with Coach Cheery. And I thought in high school I wanted to be a baseball coach, and I was going to go and just, you know, that was my passion. And if I could go somewhere to play baseball in college, I would. And then football season ended, and I took the pads off for the last time and realized like there's nothing that will ever compare to that. Like I could go out and find a slow pitch softball league or, you know, go play pickup basketball, all that kind of stuff. But like you never get the opportunity to strap the pads on again. And I think like that's the piece of football that resonated the most with me in high school. And that's what made me want to become a football coach, was that moment that we lost. We had a home playoff game, and it was our first year split from Danville. We used to be New London, Danville. We were the New London Tigers for the first time. I don't know how long. And we had a home playoff game. We won the district, which is the only district championship New London's won. We were the district champs that year. We had a home playoff game, and we lost at home. And that was the only game I lost at home that year. And it left me, you know, all sorts of twisted up because we should have won. Like we were a better team. We just did not play better. And I remember sitting on the field with a couple of my teammates, sitting in the locker room afterwards, like not taking the pads off, but just sitting there crying. And I was like, I want to bottle that feeling up as long as I can, because I know as soon as I take them off, I can't do it again. And then we finally did. And I left, and I just dove into like what makes football special. And that's when I started reading football books and just like watching videos and learning from all these other coaches and going to clinics and all that kind of stuff. And Coach Lloyd is one of my favorite people of all time. He was my high school football coach my junior and senior year, who basically just said like, hey, if you don't go to the weight room, you're not going to play for me. And if you don't do this, you're not going to play. And so I knew at that point, like, hey, I got to do this if I want to do it right. And he just built this will in me that was like, hey, I'm not going to quit just because it's hard. I'm going to figure out how I'm going to do it and make it happen because I want to do it. And I think he was one of the few coaches, him and Coach Cheery, that just kind of like put the balls in my court, you know, put the trust in my hands and just said like, do something about it. and challenged me every single day. And that was the best thing that ever happened, was those two coaches just kind of saying, like, you're going to show up every day and I'm going to put you to work and we're going to see how you react. And I think that's why I really just fell in love with the game of football. And then I got my first coaching job after getting my coaching authorization up in Des Moines for Des Moines Lincoln. I started coaching baseball just because it was something to do over the summer. And then, their football coach reached out and was like, hey, we're looking for guys for this fall. And I took a job with him coaching middle school and helping out with the high school. And then that kind of stemmed into, well, the basketball coach knew I had a good relationship with the kids. And I ended up coaching basketball for a year, which I'm not a basketball player. I was a average basketball player at best on my best day. But just like, building those relationships was huge. And I still chat with a couple of my Des Moines kids who I haven't seen in, 10 plus years at this point. I still chat with them, every few months, whatever, still reach out to them on their birthdays. Came back to New London and coached there for a while before going to Fort Madison and then up to Des Moines and then back down here now. And so it's been awesome, the whole thing.
Were you at Sadell?
Yes. Yeah, I was at Sadell.
Do you remember a guy by the name of Chase Tennant?
Chase Tennant. He was actually the first. So I got hired as a head coach there. And
you stole him from me.
2021.
I'm just messing with you. You did steal him.
Yeah, he moved up to Des Moines and I had just gotten the head football job up there, and I looked and I saw that he had just relocated to Des Moines. He was literally the first phone call I made after I graduated or after I got the job up there, and called him, was like, hey, I would love for you to come and coach football at Sadell. It's going to be a process. I'm not going to say we're going to win a bunch of games, but I was a softball coach at Wesleyan when he was playing football there. So like I got to see him, I got to work his games, all that kind of stuff. We knew of each other just because of New London and Central Lee being in the same conference. And
you had a pretty damn good quarterback that could run the ball though.
Yeah, we did. And so he was the first phone call I made, and he was the first guy that accepted a position on my staff, and he was fantastic for 3 years. And now he's, gone back to school. The coolest thing that Coach Tennant did, and this just goes to show you how important this is, he believed so much in building relationships with those kids that he left his job and took an associate position in our school for 2 years up at Sadell and just worked as an associate, just following kids around, helping kids out, whatever, just to get in the halls to make more of a difference with them every single day. And that's what you need. And that's like hands off to those people. Because those kind of guys make the biggest impact with kids. And he did. And he went back to school while he was doing it. And now he's an AD over at Murray. And I can't, Coach Tennant is a ride or die with me. So, yeah.
And he's eventually going to get a big school AD job, and he's going to kick butt. Did he ever tell you any bank stories?
we shared a few bank stories every once in a while, but I don't know if any of it's appropriate for the podcast.
Okay. Okay.
No. He had nothing but nice things to say, and if we would have been there another year, he actually had expressed interest in switching from the defensive side of the ball over the offensive side. And he was working in a lot of the offensive stuff that you guys had run at Central Lee previously to kind of package in with the spread stuff that I had been running the past couple of years. So we were really focusing on getting the run game up and going with him kind of switching over to the offensive side of the ball. So that was really cool.
Yeah, just another great dude. It's amazing how many how we're all tied together in this crazy football world. Hey, let's talk about your full circle moment, because so you end up losing your last home game, or you took the cleats off. Now you've been coaching in Des Moines. You come back home and you win a state title. I can't even freaking process it. I mean, I'm not going back to Centerville, folks. I'm going to stay in Fort Madison to win a damn title, and I approve that message.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's talk about that.
Yeah, in my first couple years getting into coaching, like my first job outside of New London, I started off I coached junior high baseball for one summer while I was in the process of moving to Des Moines. And I worked with Mark McSorley, who was the head junior high coach at that point. And I moved away, went to Des Moines, we ended up coming back. And Mark had just gotten the head football job and was looking, put together a staff, whatever. And the first year, I just ran into him at the gas station. Hey, like if you need anything, just let me know. Well, next thing you know, I'm volunteering and I'm their JV offensive coordinator and, just showing up every day doing that kind of thing. Meanwhile, we're having our first kid, we're, settling down, all that kind of thing. After that first year, they brought me on paid assistant. I also at that time started working with their activities department and kind of did not an internship, but they essentially, were paying me a little bit of money to help out in their AD role. And so I did a lot of their scheduling of officials and that kind of thing, just kind of learning the ropes while I was in grad school. And so, we were there 2 years. We were playing 11-player football, JV varsity. And that third year came around that I was there, and we had the opportunity to go down to 8-player because of our enrollment. And we, made the decision. So we had to rebuild everything for the 8-player game. And Coach Lloyd, my high school head coach, was the defensive coordinator. And so that was really cool getting to work with him, not as a player anymore, but as a peer. And then John Brown, he was our special teams guy and helped out with defense. And then me and Mark were on the offense. He was varsity OC, I was JV OC, and we would just kind of bounce things off each other. And we had a really talented group of kids. And so we went down to 8-player that year. And I mean, we were like unstoppable offensively and defensively. I think we averaged 17 points given up in 8-player football, which is unheard of.
How many wrestlers did you have on that team?
Oh, there was a ton. There was a lot. All of our entire offensive line was, varsity wrestlers. Defensive line, those guys were wrestlers. A few of our linebackers. We had a 4-time state champ, Marcel Lopez. He was a freshman that year. We won the state championship. Wasn't seeing varsity time, but was seeing JV time. So like we had quite a few, but then we also had a really good group of basketball players that year. Like the key to that group was just that they had grown up playing everything together and they were competitive in everything. And whether it was the guys that were playing basketball competing with each other every single day, or the guys that were in the wrestling room making each other better every single day, like they had that same energy out on the field. And we lost one game that year, which is why they didn't win a district championship. And it was a mud bowl. We drove up to Iowa Valley on a Friday night, hadn't even kicked off yet. There's lightning everywhere. It's downpouring. We're hanging out in the school, and they make the decision, hey, we're going to come back on Saturday and play. Well, it was like a monsoon hit in Marengo, Iowa. And we drove back up the next day, and like the water was still up like to our ankles when we're standing on the field. And we tore that thing up, and it was literally who's going to fall down one more time than the other person, and that person's going to win. And they ended up beating us, I believe, 20-13, the number 1 seed then going into the playoffs. And we played them in the second round or something like that of the playoffs, and ended up beating them like 56-20. Like the real tale of the tape was there. Like we were able to run everything. We weren't just sitting behind in Power I. We were able to spread out with some of our athletes. And it was just, we kind of just took it to them, which felt nice to get back, but it also hurt because, hey, like this was a special group that probably should have won a district title. And unfortunately, weather does play a part in football, and you have to be able to adapt to that. And at that time in the season, like we did as much as we could, but it wasn't enough for that game. But then we came back, we went to the Dome. Fremont Mills in the first round took us to overtime, which was the first time we'd really, really been tested that way because it was a back and forth game. They were up 14. We went up by 21, and then they stormed back, and it was just back and forth the whole game. Ended up tying it in the end of the game and taking it to OT and putting together a last minute, OT drive that ends up putting points on the board and then intercepting their quarterback on the second play from scrimmage and walking away with a tush push style, ending into the end zone. So it was awesome. Yeah.
You know, I've never got to experience the dome, and I've had some pretty doggone amazing
Yeah.
teams that I've been a part of, but um here's the good one. Okay, what was harder, winning the championship or keeping the team focused the next season?
Winning the championship. That group was just different. And we had a lot of seniors that year that we won the championship. Graduated quarterback, walk-on running back at Iowa, a wide receiver that went to Wartburg to play, and was on their team until he graduated. Our other wide receiver had a walk-on tryout at Notre Dame. We graduated a lot of kids. We graduated our center, who was at that point Gabe Carter. He was a phenomenal wrestler, 145, 150 pounds playing center, but that kid just wanted to get after it every single play. He said that was the best position he ever played because he just got to spar the entire game. So loved that about him. Graduated a few guys. Our kicker, who was an all-state kicker, we were loaded. And so we graduated a bunch of these guys, and it's like, well, what do we got coming back? We had a few underclassmen that were really, really solid. The one thing that doesn't get talked about is we had a running back that was a second piece of the puzzle to our walk-on running back that went to Iowa, Keontae Luckett. We had a second running back that was the second piece of the puzzle, Shea Summerfield, who ended up tearing his ACL really early in that season. Comes back the next season and runs for like 2,200 yards. And it was an insane amount of touchdowns, somewhere in the 30s to 40s, just on the ground running touchdowns. Like, that kid was an animal. And so like the next year we came back and we couldn't find a game for week one. It was, we just couldn't. We were down a game. We ended up playing Williams Bay, Wisconsin, which Wisconsin doesn't have a player as a sanctioned sport or sanctioned version of football. At that point, they hadn't. And Williams Bay was their undefeated team from the year before. So they were like the unofficial state champs. And so we drove up to Williams Bay, Wisconsin and played in week 1 or week 0, something like that. And we ended up putting 50 on them and they didn't score on us. And it was like the team just kind of reloaded after graduating everyone. And so that was really cool. Obviously we still had, a really solid Waco team, a really solid Iowa Valley team, a few of those teams that Montezuma was pretty solid, just a few teams that were really solid. Ended up, making the playoffs and then going to play Don Bosco in the first round. And if you know anything about Don Bosco, those kids are all wrestlers and
Yes.
they're all huge and they know how to intimidate you real quick. And that was the one thing our guys were not ready for that. They do this walk after they put you guys in the locker room, whatever, and kind of standing there in the school, and all their kids leave the weight room and they just walk right past you. And our kids are just like, holy crap, those guys are huge. Because on film, nobody looks as big as they actually are unless they're monsters. And those guys walk past and then they put it to us. I think we took the opening kickoff back for a touchdown. They didn't kick it to us again. And then they just ran it down our throat for 4 quarters.
I remember back in I think it was 2013. I think it was 2013 team, and we looked at L&M on tape, and we were like, oh man, these guys look slow. They don't look that big, and then they show up and they're like all 7 foot tall, 300-pound
Yep.
monsters.
Yep. Yeah.
Loki.
Film. They say,
Sorry about that. My dog is growling at the fat dog. So if you hear him bark, just ignore him.
They say film doesn't lie, but it doesn't tell the whole truth always either.
Well, those guys, to be fair, the game that I watched, they were in white. Okay. So, I just kind of figured, yeah, these guys are small. We're going to run right over them. They showed up, dude. And it was like this stupid ground and pound. And then back then we were, quit. You need to quit. All right. So that's Grouchy behind me. All right, you go. Get out of here. Holy smokes, guys. All right. So those that can't see him, he's kind of grouchy behind me. He's Yeah, they say that your dog acts like your owner, Ben. Is that
Yeah.
true?
Well, if that's the case, then I must be really dumb. My dog is dumb. No, he's only 6 months old, so he's still got a lot of learning to do. Like I
Yeah.
said, but he makes a lot of dumb choices.
So, let's talk about the culture that Derek Doherty's created. Okay.
Yeah,
He's a guy that doesn't like the limelight. He hates it. But I'm just going to throw it out there as a former head coach. I don't think there's a lot of head coaches that I'd work with. I mean, what do you think about the culture that he's developed and where he's headed with this, especially the group coming back?
yeah, 100%. Derek is a guy that I've had the fortune of working with twice now. The first time, coming in as an administrator at Fort Madison, not really knowing what to expect, just knowing the name. Um, but everything he does the right way, and he does because he cares. And any questions about like what his plans are, whatever, like he's a Fort Madison guy. Like I tried for 3 years to get him up to Des Moines, and there were opportunities to get him up there, and he's rooted. Like that guy is not going anywhere. He loves Fort Madison, loves the community, loves the kids more than anything, and would do anything for them. And when I talk about like guys like Tennant who found ways to get in the building to build those relationships, and that is Doherty. Like he is a guy that at the end of the day, you may not agree, you may have tried football and not liked it. He's not going to treat you any differently. He's going to tell you he loves you every single day. He's going to push you to be better at whatever your passion is, whether that's, a kid like me who at the time, like maybe sports didn't work out. So I'm going to try theater. Like he would have pushed me to be better that way too. So that's what I love about Doherty as a coach. He doesn't just push the players either. Like he pushes the coaches to be better. He, like you said, doesn't like the limelight. He wants to praise every single other person for any success that he's got. And, that's just the mark of a good person, and a good coach. And as a guy that had an opportunity to go to a school and be a head coach, at a school right outside the Des Moines area, like I stole a lot of coaches steal. We'll admit it every single day, but I stole a lot of what he does down here in Fort Madison and tried to model it up there. And I think that's the main reason, why I was able to achieve my little bit of success up there. And it wasn't always about wins and losses up there. It was more about my relationships with the kids and growing the roster and getting more kids and students involved in different activities, whether it be football or whether it be the fine arts or whether it be this, just having them feel like they don't have to be afraid to try something just because it's different. That's the big thing with Derek is not everybody is a superior athlete, but you're going to show up to weights, you're going to show up to gym, you're going to show up to football, and he's not going to treat you any differently. He's going to find what makes you tick. He's going to find what motivates you, and he's going to find a way to help you motivate yourself when you don't feel motivated. And that's Doherty to a T. And that's why the culture around Fort Madison football and the kids love it so much. That's why it is what it is. It's all because of that guy.
Have you ever been a part of a staff that basically there's like no animosity, there's no ego? I mean, have you ever been a part of a staff like that? I have not.
I,
His
I, I can't say that I've experienced, like a bad staff. There's been disagreements at times between staff members, whatever, but following the model and and teaching and just acting and not acting, but like carrying yourself with conviction and the way that Derek does. Like I did that up in Des Moines, and I kind of like I said, I modeled what we were doing after Fort Madison because there was success on the field. There was pride in the program. There was pride in all that kind of stuff in the community at the time, and there still is. whether people understand that or not, like it's still there. It just might not be at the forefront of everybody's mind, right? So like I went to Des Moines, was coaching at Sadell, and I put together a staff that I knew was going to gel together, but also going to challenge each other. And that was like Coach Tennant and Coach Sampson and Coach Santos, who, you know, ended up being like my number two. Like I could talk to that guy about anything. And when I was unsure about myself, he picked me up. And when he was unsure, I would pick him up. And that's what you need in a coaching staff. Instead of, hey, the defense let us down there. Like, okay, yeah, the defense let us down, but here's how we get better from it. And here's what we learned from that loss. You know,
Damn it, Colin. No, I'm just kidding.
finding ways to learn what went wrong and how to get better. And it's not an overnight fix. There are no overnight fixes in football. You could line up a completely different way. Guess what? That team that you're planning for is probably going to come out in a different offense than you've seen. That's just life. You know, everybody's trying to anticipate everybody's next move. It's like chess. And you can anticipate and anticipate and anticipate, but until you have that culture piece where you can fall back on just fundamentals, fall back on your core values and what your coaches have instilled in you, like you're gonna struggle. And the beautiful thing about Fort Madison football is that Derek works endlessly, tirelessly, day in and day out to make sure that those values stay consistent and he doesn't waver.
What the hell's up with all these teams across the entire state? It doesn't matter what class, 5A, 8-man, whatever. What the hell's up with all these teams onside kicking every freaking time?
Yeah, as a football purist, I can't say that because I'm a spread guy. You know, it's great if you have that kicker that can put it in the end zone. But what people don't realize, when you have a kicker that can put it in the end zone every time, and you have then said they're starting every single series from the 20-yard line, like that's a huge deal. When you don't have that, like you have to get creative, and people have started to realize, like, what's the point of kicking the ball to the 15, letting them catch it and then return it after our defense or after our offense has already put together a drive where most kids in Iowa are playing both ways. That's just the reality of it. So our guys are tired. We're putting them right back out there on kickoff, where in their mind, like, hey, kickoff is like supposed to be like, hey, we're going to kick it downfield. We're going to stop them. They're going to have to set up their offense. All right. Well, now you got all these athletes that are twitchier than ever. You got all these guys that are just, you know, more well-rounded multi-sport athletes that you're sticking back there and are flying. And so, the easy solution is let's onside it, which, you know, we've unfortunately fell victim to a couple times.
9 weeks in a freaking row, I think. I don't know, man.
Yeah. But it's one thing, like it one puts a little bit of trust and confidence in your defense that you believe that they can stop an offense in a short field, but also at the same time, you're controlling where the other team is getting the ball in every aspect of the game. And so if you want to onside it, you know, like defensively, they're probably going to get the ball if they recover it with a 60-yard field, rather than we're going to kick it off and maybe it gets inside the 10 and maybe we stop them at the 20, maybe we stop them at the 30. Maybe they bobble it and we stop them and they have a 90-yard field, whatever. But I think it just creates a little bit more surety in what's happening every single time. And you don't have to leave anything up to chance.
Yeah, 100%. Now, you know, kind of off that subject, Phillip Rivers is 44 freaking years old.
44.
Okay? And he damn near won an NFL game today.
Yeah. You know, if you got it, you got it. That's just how it is. You know, like he's a Hall of Famer. He may never have won a Super Bowl, but like that guy is one of the best to have done it in recent history. Like, is
he 300 pounds?
You know, I don't exactly know what his weight is, and he said in his press conference he doesn't know what his weight is, but you know, he went out there and completed 7 straight and a touchdown drive. And you know, like that, the guy's got it still. He just might not be as crisp as he used to be, but those guys at the NFL read the defenses at such a high level. Like he'll get back into the swing of things. And next week, whoever they're playing, like there's a chance that they'll come away with a win that week just because of his preparation and the defense not really knowing how to prepare for him because he's 44 years old. So if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm saying I'm going to pin my ears back on this guy who's 44 and has never really been a mobile guy and force him to beat us with his arm, which Phillip Rivers is pretty good with his arm because he's not a speedster. So who knows? It's anything could happen.
Do you think Tom Brady is like, he's slobbering right now, and hey, maybe one of these maybe one of these playoff teams, their quarterback's going to go down and I can just walk in?
I don't know. I think if we were going to see a Tom Brady comeback, it would have happened already, especially with this Phillip Rivers situation. You think Phillip Rivers, not to give not any shade to Phillip Rivers, but I'm sure Tom Brady was on the list of people to call along with Phillip Rivers. So, I feel like Tom Brady has kind of accepted that he has walked away twice now and been successful and is going to go down as the greatest of all time. That's just the way it is. And he's so successful in what he's doing now. And he's still getting sponsorship deals. He's in the broadcast booth. And I think he's found a new passion for the game in that. And so that's why I think he's kind of gone that way. Phillip, I know, was coaching some high school ball and all that kind of stuff too.
So he was slinging it.
Yeah, like he was still slinging it at high school practice, whatever, and hit the goalpost from 50 yards, whatever. Like he's still doing that. Do I think Tom Brady could still go out and execute at a high level? Absolutely. But I think anybody that has played at that level, regardless of age, could go out and compete for a little bit. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not sure, they'd be winning many games, but I'm not going to say that they wouldn't be able to compete.
I think Pittsburgh contacted Terry Bradshaw after
that one might be putting it. Yeah, the game's evolved a little bit since then. They're not all running the flex bone anymore, Chuck.
I don't even know what to say. He's making fun of my flex bone, Owen. No, I'm just messing. Oh my God. So who would be your Mount Rushmore? Did you see I had your face on Mount Rushmore?
I did. Are you talking of coaches? Or are you talking of players?
Let's talk quarterbacks first.
This is where I always get myself into a back and forth battle with my own, self-conscious. Let's see. I know, if you want to go by greatest of all time, because if you're asking me LeBron, MJ, it's MJ every single day. That's just the way it is.
Michael Jordan,
right?
100%. Yeah.
I think Kobe's even in front of LeBron there. So,
yes.
you talk about it.
I think Larry Bird. I think Larry Bird's ahead of LeBron.
Basketball, like I said, I'm not a basketball guy. Never watch. I don't watch NBA. Don't watch any of that stuff. So football is where I spend all my time. I love the way Peyton Manning understands the game more than anybody in the world. And I will go to bat for Peyton Manning every single day in the conversation of greatest of all time. So if it's a Mount Rushmore, I'm putting Peyton Manning up there, and I'm putting Tom Brady up there. Mahomes is really good, but he's still so young in his career that I think there's more he can do, which in my mind, my Mount Rushmore goes vertically. So it's more a greatest of all time conversation for me than a Mount Rushmore. But there's so many good quarterbacks. There's so many guys that had special seasons. There's so many different ways that you can classify all this kind of stuff. But my main two are Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, just from me looking as an outside observer, really falling in love with the game of football and researching different offenses, different defenses, all this kind of stuff, and how they make sense of it all. Those two are up there. Phillip Rivers was always one of my favorites to watch. He's the least mobile guy in the world, but I loved watching him. And you look at guys that had a really short career, like Andrew Luck. If he could have had a long career, I feel like he would have been on my Mount Rushmore because he was so good.
Do you think the Colts called him?
No. I think I wouldn't be surprised if they called him, but it was probably more of a courtesy call. He's the director like football operations, the GM of the Stanford Cardinal. Like that guy is doing fine where he's at, and I think he loves what he's doing there. And so I'm sure that there's a lot of phone calls made. I'm sure somebody like
Joe
sure
Montana. I'm kidding.
no, but I'm like, Johnny Football probably got a phone call when somebody was short a quarterback. Like, Robert Griffin probably gets a call. There's all these guys that had shorter careers that were kind of not. Flash in the pan is the wrong term, but like they showed that they could play at an elite level, but they didn't have the longest career. Maybe I'm sure that a lot of those guys still get calls and invites to camps and all that kind of stuff. It's just, where are they at in their current life? And is it something they still have a passion for, or are they perfectly fine doing what they're doing right now? So,
well, Johnny Football wouldn't watch the game film.
No, but he could still go out there and tear apart a defense, not watching any game film.
I know.
He had it. Yeah.
Okay, so national championships coming up.
Yep.
We've got some great games. Alabama got left out. I feel they should have been left out.
Same. Yep.
Or wait, did Alabama's
No,
in,
Alabama's in. But
Texas.
Texas got left out. Notre Dame got left out.
What'd you think of the
Sorry,
Notre Dame
Shannon.
thing? Huh?
I am one of those guys that also feels like you need, if you want that piece of it, joining a conference probably makes a difference. If you're in a conference, whether it makes sense or not to the voting committee, to the playoff committee, like it has factors. Like there are conference championship like criteria for the college football playoffs. So if you don't have a conference championship, you're missing a whole criteria that they use to judge and evaluate who should be in there. And so in my mind, like if you're not in a conference, you're kind of shooting yourselves in the foot a little bit. Do I think they're probably one of the top 15 teams in the country? Absolutely. Do I think that they should be in? They can make a very valid case for it, but they're missing criteria that everybody else gets evaluated on.
Dude, I think we lost listeners because we were downing
just one, right?
Curt Cignetti.
Yeah.
How do you not like that guy?
When he first got the Indiana job, I will say, like, comments that he made, did not like. I win, Google me, stuff like that. Like exactly the opposite of somebody like Derek Doherty, who's just like, I have a really awesome staff. I have really awesome kids. I have really awesome players. Like, hey, anywhere I go, I win, Google me. Like, that's, toot your own horn, dude. I get it. Like, but at the same time, like, he backs it up. So that's why I love Curt Cignetti. Like, he can talk all that crap, but he's going to back it up every single day. And you look at what he's done with the Hoosiers and the world of college football that we live in, with NIL money and all these people spending dollars on these kids and these young men playing football. And that guy has taken Indiana, who historically was a middle to below middle of the pack team in the Big Ten, and has made them a national contender in his 2 years there. And before he got there, they were a 500 or below team with a lot of the same guys on the roster. Like, what are we doing? NIL coming through helps, because then, yeah, there are some guys that will transfer, will try, will do this, but like the guy just eats, lives, breathes football and planning and preparation, and there's not anything in the world that he is not prepared for on any given Saturday.
Okay, so Owen Huffman said Georgia's going to win it all. I don't think so. Here's the deal, okay? And I've been around a long time. I've had 2 strokes, right? Let's be freaking honest. I think Miami somehow is going to upset teams, and I know that people don't like to hear that, but I think Miami's got a legit shot at winning the whole damn thing.
Yeah, there's that. I think the world of NIL just creates this huge possibility that it's anybody's ball game. And like Georgia is a powerhouse. They've got, a really, really good coaching staff.
They
But-
they ruined Alabama's shot at
Yeah.
making the list.
Yes, but like you look at everything. You look at everybody that's in. You look at the playoff, and there's just so many teams that have these dudes and these guys that have kind of come out of the woodwork. Not necessarily come out of the woodwork, but have found a home, found whatever through NIL. And so I think there's all these teams that I don't think there's anybody in there that doesn't have some sort of chance. Granted, minus, like Tulane lost to Ole Miss already by 35 points. Like they're probably going to go, but Tulane could come and surprise people. Like people lose to people and then come back and find a way to beat them the second time. Like beating a team twice is hard, but
Yeah.
NIL is not something that everybody's always prepared for. Like
100%.
there's guys.
Yeah, unpopular opinion. The Sooners will win the national title.
The Sooners are a good pick. I really like Texas Tech. I really like them. They got a lot of guys. They got a lot of weapons all over the place. Their defense is phenomenal. The only thing I can say against them is they play in the Big 12 where there's not a whole lot of defense played, but like in the Big 12, like they were a really solid defensive team, and they've shown that they can compete with just about everybody as well. So like if everything starts going their way and their offense is clicking, great. But you have the SEC, Georgia, Bama, these teams that pride themselves on having defenses that are going to lock you down the whole time. And so like, when you watch Alabama and Georgia play each other, there's not a whole lot of offenses scored because it's just defense the whole time. But then, like it's kind of the same way with the Big Ten. Like the Big Ten championships looks like a pillow fight until one team ends up winning, but it's not really a pillow fight because they're beating the crap out of each other the whole game. So, like Fernando Mendoza takes a shot on the first play of the game and everybody's like, oh no, Indiana's quarterback's out for the rest of the game. And then he comes in and just is electric the rest of the game. Like all these teams deserve to be there. And I'm super excited to just like sit down and binge all this football of the playoff. The playoff is the best thing that college football has done in terms of like the college football championship, because it gives everybody a fighting chance to stake their claim. Now, do teams get left out? Absolutely. Florida State got left out with a 13-0 record. Like it is what it is, but there's something along the criteria. I'm not paid to make those decisions. I'm not smart enough to pretend I know why the decisions were made the way they were. But like these guys put together a hell of a playoff every single year, and it's been phenomenal ever since they put it in.
So Ben, we're down to the last nitty gritty here. Any shout outs? It goes by so fast, man.
It does. Huge shout out to my wife, Morgan. She lets me continue to do this every single year.
She let him come out and play.
Yeah, she did. She's upstairs with the kids right now, putting them to bed, whatever. They're all sleeping already. But, like huge shout out to her, huge shout out to my parents, huge shout out to my high school coach, both Coach Lloyd and Coach Cheery. Like they're the whole reason I wanted to become a coach after high school. And then a huge shout out to Sadell, my first ever head coaching job. I could not have had a better staff up there. They grounded me. They kept me fighting every single day in very tough situations. So huge shout out to them, and just another huge shout out to all the players at Fort Madison, all the coaches. I'm so thrilled to be here. That was one quick little thing. The best thing that I can say about Fort Madison is, like you said, the first day I'm there, you guys are prepping for Keokuk, obviously a rivalry game. The coaches like, hey, it's nice to have you back, whatever. Like, didn't have to go out of their way to, make me feel appreciated, whatever, for coming back, but they did. But the biggest takeaway I have from that first practice is I had been there. obviously I got voluntold that I was given the meal speech, whatever, did that. But even before that, like practice ends and the Fort Madison boys come up to me like, "Hey, you're coming to our game at Keokuk tomorrow, right?" And when I was on the fence, like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. I don't want to overstep. I don't want to show up like if I'm not welcome, kind of thing like that. And in the first 2 hours that I spent with those guys, they made me feel 100% welcome and made me feel like I was wanted to be around. And so the next day, like I finished up work, I drove myself to Keokuk and I was on the sideline, and it was awesome. Like those guys just saying like, "Hey, we want you to come. Like, are you coming? Because I want you there." Like that meant more to me than anything. And that's the whole reason why I decided like, yeah, I'm gonna stick out the rest of the season with you guys. I'm gonna give as much as I can with whatever I can. I don't know what my role is, but like whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. And so that was the best thing about my first day. And I'm so glad that it's turned out the way it has. And I'm so excited for next year.
And that was your first Coach Banks moment. I come over and I'm like, dude.
Yeah, my first Coach Banks moment was that. Yeah.
Yeah, we can't talk about the mount before one of those games. I can't even remember who the hell it was, but my pregame speech that I give all you coaches,
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So Ben, stay on the line here.
Yeah.
Dog Pound Radio, we're going to be large and in charge this week. Tuesday night, we're going to do junior high, middle school wrestling. Thursday night, we got a home meet with Mount Pleasant, women's and men's wrestling. Friday and Saturday, you're going to watch, the Colton Vermazen, Sir Isaac, all those people. I'll add Isaac back here. All those people running ragged for our
Fort Madison Invitational.
Yes, and then next Sunday night, stay tuned because you never know who the hell I'm going to have on the Coach Show.